You're listening to Game and Chat, where we level up with conversations about gaming then and now. I'm your host, Daniel, aka One to Switcheroo. So let's press start and game on.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Game and Chat, streamed directly to your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, or all of the above to support the cause. And with that being said, welcome back everyone to episode 9. We are here, we are ready, and there's time for another episode. And what an episode this is, because we are on the verge, if not already there by the time this episode releases, of the first anniversary of what I consider to be PlayStation's magnum opus on this generation and maybe in the last decade. And we're going to talk about how it's heavily inspired by our Nintendo favorite mascot and Mustachio Man, and lead the door open for this small group of people that work for PlayStation to basically craft and maybe solidify what could be potentially the new mascot of the company and the franchise itself. So yes, guys, it's been 1 year since Astro Bot 2024 came out. I say Astro Bot 2024 just to not confuse them with like all the small game iterations that we got, like the VR or Astro's Playroom. But this was the game that really set aside what really gaming means for most of us. Because yes, there has to be something for everybody. However, we do need to understand that if you want to appeal to a broader audience, that you need to have a little bit of variety, and something that, you know, Nintendo has done really well, but PlayStation, at least over the past like decade or so, when the new management came in, has struggled to find its footing. And I think with Astro Bot, they're actually starting to find that path. Yet mistakes were made in other games that came after. However, we will touch base on like why games like Astro Bot is very important. Just like we talk about how like Expedition 33 on the last episode like was groundbreaking for gaming, so as this game, because it really makes you understand that, you know, big budgets and larger companies and like super high value production is not required to create a masterpiece in an official Game of the Year winner, which was this game right here, and my also personal Game of the Year as well for last year. So yes, this is gonna be a fun one. We're gonna talk about it because it really took me out by surprise. We did play Astro's Playroom and had fun with it, and I only thought about the possibilities. So when this got announced last year, I was very excited that they were really gonna take a hit on the platforming, and boy oh boy, what a great platform this is. This is literally one of the best games I ever played, and we're gonna do a deep dive into PlayStation's history from the sweetest robot ever existed, what it means for the industry, and the legacy that this promoted for games that will come after, and they will solidify that maybe there is a glimpse of hope of getting really good games at a reasonable amount, not only price wise but just on value and production. So welcome everybody, welcome back to episode 9 of Game and Chat, Astro Bot 2024, PlayStation's Mario moment. And of course, we're going to talk about how this whole thing with Astro Bot got started. And we mentioned back in the day, at the release of PlayStation 5, the console itself, we got a little demo called Astro's Playroom. If you haven't played Astro Bot yet and you still are like hesitant about it, I would definitely recommend to like take a look at this demo from the PS5. It's free. You can just download it if it's not already on your console, and you get a little glimpse of what it could potentially be. And literally, I would say that Astro's Playroom was like the best game that came out of the PS5 on release day at some point. And you know, it's kind of like a tease, but it's actually quite a substantial tease. Like, yeah, it's not too long. You can probably like wrap it up in like 2, maybe 3 hours. Maybe I'm like underselling it, but the point is that they showed this game as like a technical demo to showcase the DualSense potential and features and all that. And the fact that they were able to craft this like amazing platforming just to show a technical demo, it really said something. And you know, if anything, it kind of surprises me a little bit why it took so long for them to just come up with like the full-blown game, or might as well just release the full-blown game at all. But again, we talk about like how PlayStation main approach right now was like live services and their like high fidelities and their graphics and the dramatic games that they all know and love, which yes, I mean, I love those games too, and don't get me wrong, like Last of Us, Uncharted, like they're amazing masterpieces. But there was nothing for like the lighter audience, you know. Like sometimes, like yes, we love the nitty gritty stuff, but we also need something like lighthearted, fun, and you know, something that can appeal a little bit more if we want to take a break from like the realism, if you want to put it that way. And what this little demo did is just realize it's like, oh man, like if only we can get a game like this. Like this is basically, as the title says, like this is the Mario that PlayStation needs. And you know, it had its own identity. Yeah, inspirations are clearly there, but the Astro Bot brand was just like right there. This just cute little blue robot with a lot of personality and like so expressive too, like one of the most expressive characters out there. And he's just a robot, that's what I'm saying. So after that, we didn't see anything. I mean, what, PlayStation released in 2020, I believe, and we only got the Astro Bot game like 4 years, which was about like the time it took to develop. I would guess that maybe Team Asobi, which is the developer behind this, saw the reaction of the demo and they just got the go to create the new game. Not entirely sure about the development time, but you know, given the landscape of the game itself, like I think that seems like a good amount of time to come up with this, especially if they had the baseline of like the platforming skills with Astro's Playroom. So, you know, like I said, so glad they did. Like literally, like as soon as the game came out and we started playing here at home, you can tell like the love and the appreciation that this team have, not only because it's a good platformer, like genuinely this is a platformer that I would dare to say that it really compares with Mario's best. And the fact that they were able to pull that off, it's amazing. Mario's still gonna be the number one, don't get me wrong, but Astro Bot has something here, and I feel like they just need to like go from this and like keep like releasing games and like not only sequels but original ideas, and they really need to showcase this mascot. I would be surprised if they eventually do not release. I don't know if Astro Bot 2 is already on the books, but they need to release the PlayStation Mothership Edition. We got the controller, which I still don't have, and I'm really mad about that because I missed the pre-order deadline. But they need to have a PlayStation Mothership with the little eyes and everything, and I think it will sell pretty well. You know, like I said, they just need to really find their identity. And I know like people might say to them, oh, but their mascot is like Ellie from The Last of Us or Kratos from God of War. But when you think about mascot, you don't think it's like a real person kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's a cute representation of the brand and you know what they're striving for. But just to put it as an example, like imagining Nintendo's mascot was Link instead of Mario. Like let's say Link was like the main guy. Like I don't know, there's something off about that. Like you when you think of Link, you think about like Zelda, you know, like drama, fantasy world, story based, but you want to have something fun, something to appeal to the younger audiences, because in the end of the day it's a video game, and most of the video games are addressed to kids, and mostly kids will be the ones buying their consoles from their parents. And you know, I mean, yes, some kids might be playing games that shouldn't be playing at their age, but in the end of the day, I feel like this is like the right approach of how to definitely tackle that missing aspect of Sony and PlayStation of having an identity. which they do. Don't get me wrong, like they do have, but there's nothing like you say that in PlayStation Mario. If you say Nintendo Mario, but if you say PlayStation to somebody, then they can tell you like 4 or 5 different answers, and we just need like that go-to mascot that they can relate like their franchise, like their platform franchise, the console franchise. And I just really hope that hopefully they will listen to this, not to the podcast. I mean, I wish they would listen to the podcast, but like they really like understand that this is the approach in order for them to be successful, not only for Astro Bot itself, for platformers, future platformers on PlayStation, but for all their franchises and games in general. And ever since I played this game, mind you, I did not have any sort of like, yes, I played PlayStation when I was a kid. I didn't own a PlayStation. However, I do not have the same nostalgia of like PlayStation main characters that people that grew up with the console had. But what this did was actually introduce me to a little bit of PlayStation's history, some history that I even didn't know it existed. And it is awesome the way they did it. The way they did their collectibles, which is basically the other little Astro Bot robots that you rescue in every level, and how some of them like represent like characters for like different franchises of PlayStation history. It's great. And even like some like deep cut like characters and stuff that I didn't even know it was a thing. Like I just got introduced to this. So I love when games do that. And you can say basically that this game, besides not only is a platform masterpiece, but it's also one of the best like PlayStation, if not the best PlayStation advertisement out there. Like if you ever want to know about PlayStation and like these features and stuff, then just play this game. There's no commercial or ad that will sell you more than Astro Bot will do for you. And it sure did for me. Like you will find certain levels that will be inspired by some of these games of PlayStation's history, and the way they approach them with Astro Bot, it's really, really freaking cool. I mean, we saw the trailer. You guys know where I'm going for. Like, for example, when we get to meet Kratos as Bot, and then we get lend the axe, so we get the powers of Kratos from God of War, and we get this like little like microchip God of War level that we need to clear with Astro Bot, and we like wielding the axe and just throwing it and then calling it back. It's just freaking cool, man. I was smiling from beginning to end, not only on that section, but like from the whole game as a whole, because finally I could say that I found a PlayStation game that I genuinely like love and cherish. And like their games are epic and mind-blowing, but I think like Astro Bot has a really soft spot in my heart because it reminds me of where my love for video games started in the first place. And I just simply cannot wait where this robot will go next. But why is this game so special, and why it deserves Game of the Year? And that's the question that we're going to answer on this section right away. And it all comes down to break down the qualities of what make it material. First and foremost, I mean, the gameplay. From the get-go, from the moment you start to the moment you finish, it's just filled with joy. It is a game that it is accessible on the first glance. I feel like everybody can just pick up and like learn the basics, and then but also it doesn't end up being like so basic and straightforward. But yeah, the moveset might be, you might want to call it like basic. It actually has some level of depth, especially when you come down to the later levels, and like how they really implemented all their inspirations that actually make this game to be. So it is very, very, very from the start. You get started, you get thrown into this wonderful first level with this very nice upbeat music, and it's just a joy, and it's just a little glimpse of what this game is going to offer down the line. And I mean, like I said, coming from Astro's Playroom, which was our little taste that we had on the PlayStation demo showcase, when PlayStation came out, it was just imagine the possibilities, and this is what the possibility is, and it has been what a great surprise it's been, and I'm very happy with the final product. I'm very happy that Team Asobi got the inspirations where he got from, and it's just, like I said, it's just pure joy. Like, even like from the movement to Astro Bot's personality, the soundtrack, it really, which funny enough, you don't get this sort of like nostalgia vibes for a like character or soundtrack from PlayStation very often. While you might have nostalgia from one of the like the AAA, like, you know, like hyper realistic games, I do get that, but we needed some like level of charm that I think that PlayStation was missing, and Astro Bot is the first step to reclaim that. And, you know, going back into the game itself, I mean, we need to talk about the level design, how every single level has something to offer and has something hidden and something fun to explore. And yes, I mean, while it's a straight line level, you know, there's no like much open exploration per se. The way that they hide little things, little nooks and crannies for all these collectibles that you get is very creative. I mean, I find myself going back into levels often and often because I thought I got the whole thing, and then when I got to the end, I either missed the robot, or I missed the puzzle piece, or I missed the alternate exit. So it gives you reason to play, and the replayability is just wonderful. And it's kind of those games that even if you missed out on something, on a collectible or something, you don't feel bad. You actually are looking forward to go back into the level and replay, because it's just very, very fun. I think this is very important for games of this kind. Like, if you don't make the game fun, it's very hard for you to come back and say, oh my god, I have to replay this level, I don't want to go through this again, I'm just gonna leave it be. But Astro Bot, I think, is the exception of that, and they do a really, really good job by showcasing this. And, you know, not only that, but it's also the fact that how they address this mascot. I guess we can start calling it mascot, because that's pretty much what this is leading to. I hope this is where it's leading to, is that Astro Bot is now completely associated with a celebration of PlayStation history. The amount of Easter eggs that this game has, it is monumental. And, you know, as someone that didn't grow with PlayStation since I was a kid, like I said before, like, I don't have much of a nostalgia for some of these characters. I mean, the only nostalgia I have is like Crash Bandicoot, which at some point I thought it was the face of PlayStation. We'll get into how the mascot situation evolved for this company, but I feel like they really nailed it with this, and like the fact that they had all these little robots, and some of them are like dressed up as iconic characters to PlayStation's history is great. Not only that, all the extra levels that we actually play as some of the PlayStation's most iconic characters. I mean, the best example is Kratos, as we mentioned, but you can also do Aloy, you can also do Nathan Drake, you can also do Rocco Loco, I think it's called. Sound like a kid's game kind of thing, and their level is a very, very original. It might be the most original level in the entire game. And the way how they introduce you to this without even doing or like putting much effort, and you're actually kind of playing like a pocket version of that game. It really like introduced you to this world, so a lot of people now feel curious, like, okay, I want to try the real thing now. So I think this is genius, and you know, it's all done with so polished and so charmed, and the controllers are also so great and so very well put together. Which to my disclosure, yes, I might find sometimes that, you know, Astro Bot running might feel a little too fast and frantic for some people. There's a learning curve to it, but it's not a big learning curve. It just takes a couple tries, but then you just get it just fine. And of course, we need to talk about how original this game was. I mean, to say original, it was actually a 3D platform inspired by one of the best platformers ever made, which is the Super Mario series. But just the level of originality, because, you know, in a world right now that we live, we're like AAA hyper-realism games, as we briefly mentioned. How this game really stand out is because it was fun. Some of these games that can be nominated. It could be like back and forward or whether you like them or not. There might be a lot of like division, but I feel like anybody can pick up Astro Bot and like feel a little bit of joy and a little bit of fun by playing it, because there's literally like no risk, it's just relaxing, and you don't have to worry about like high visuals or hyper realism. It's just a colorful world full of fun, full of nostalgia, full of things to do, and it's just a joy. Again, to begin to the clear word of this episode will be joy, because it's all I can think of when I think of this game. And while it wasn't the biggest game, I mean, you can probably finish this game in 3-4 hours if you like really push yourself. 100% it might take a little longer, but it is definitely the most memorable game I had since last year. Of course, with all the Nintendo stuff, but Astro Bot really stand out as one of the greatest. And I think this is just the beginning for the era of 3D platformer glory, especially looking now at what's gonna be the next Mario. And looking back at Astro Bot, it's like Astro Bot did a rule of things right. So I'm very curious to see what Nintendo responds and what's Nintendo been cooking for the next 3D Mario iteration. But I feel like PlayStation should capitalize on the success of Astro Bot itself. And since we touched about the inspirations that why this game came to be in the first place, might as well be our next subject. And of course, we need to talk about how this game itself wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for all the Nintendo games, all the 3D Mario, 2D Mario platformers in general from Nintendo that came before. And of course, like I mentioned, this is Sony's answer to Super Mario, to 3D Mario itself. Like, I feel like if they'll be fools if they don't really push hard on creating sequels and like different iterations of Astro Bot games, because they have gold here. And to the point that this could actually be potentially detrimental to Nintendo, because while Nintendo is not very well known for the high fidelity and Astro Bot looks this good, just imagine having a Mario-like experience in a PlayStation console with graphics and fidelity and great response times and all that. So this could really be a game changer if they do it correctly, and I really hope they do so. I mean, I'm a Nintendo fan. I always want Nintendo to win, but I feel like PlayStation deserves something like that for their audience, and it's a little bit break for all like the hyper realism, like I said, and just have a little game that you can just relax and do platforming and have a little joy out of it. But for inspirations from Astro Bot itself, I mean, right off the bat, I think like Astro Bot is kind of like a combination of all 3D Mario games that were showcased. I mean, we got a little bit of Mario 64 with the levels and the sandbox feeling of it. We have Mario Sunshine with Astro's like hovering lasers thing, which is basically a shorter representation of Flood. And they actually did it better than Mario Sunshine, unfortunately. I mean, we're talking about years of development, and Mario Sunshine came out in the 2000s, so of course it's gonna get better than that. And they're not afraid with like experimentation. Of course, the whole Astro Bot setting, like being like in moving to planets and like being in space. I mean, Mario Galaxy just came to be, and for many people, including myself, this is the Super Mario Galaxy 3 that we never got, and like we find it on Astro Bot. And if you were itching, if Mario Odyssey wasn't your cup of tea, or you would rather have Mario Galaxy 3, then play Astro Bot, my friend. This is definitely going to scratch that itch for you. And it's just all the inspirations that came after. And of course, we have like the personality and charm that Mario Odyssey brought with like the levels, the vibrant levels, the costumes. It all shows in Astro Bot's like customization features and like level design, how this is just great. I mean, I'm looking at footage right now, and looking back at Mario Galaxy, like there's this power up. Of course, the power ups the Astro Bot gets, that he has like the little elephant thing that absorbs like the green stuff thing, and then you shoot it in the air and it creates a platform. That is straight up the cloud flower power up from Mario Galaxy 2, which is my favorite power up in most of the games out there, just because it gives you a little bit extra platforming, and that's always welcome in this kind of games. But it's all the emphasis that they did in fun and experimentation and wonder. Again, every corner of this world, of the H level, hides something special. It's either a robot or a location or a landmark, or even this little like photo booths that you can just put Astro Bot in and you get a really cool screenshot for your PlayStation, which I think is really good. And this, again, this is what PlayStation needs. PlayStation needs a representation and a memorable character for kids and adults alike, because in the end of the day, video game consoles main audience are going to be kids, and kids will be drawn to colorful creatures and colorful characters and design and vibrance. And adults will join in there for like their proper reasons, but marketing strategy and all that jazz, you guys know what I'm talking about. And looking back at all the mascots that I thought, like I said, I thought PlayStation had before. I mean, when I played on PlayStation, I mentioned this in the previous section, I think of Crash Bandicoot. I mean, I spent every day, every weekend, I used to go to my cousin's house on his PlayStation. We only play Crash 2 and Crash 3. Literally, we'll play the same levels over and over again because we didn't have a memory card, so we couldn't save the file. And at some point, I remember just playing, like, we tried to beat the game, and we thought we beat it, and then there was this whole level that unlocked after we beat all the levels of Crash 2. So it's like, you know what? I think we did our deed here. We're just going to leave it behind. And it's those kind of things that really makes things memorable. Yes, we play Tekken. Yes, we play Final Fantasy and all that. But there's nothing like, oh yeah, I'm going to go back to this and play Mario. Or I'm going to go back to this and play Zelda. Which, at the end of the day, it is how this Astro just fits right in with all the other mascots, with the Marios, with the Sonics. And it really made a mark in the industry. And while Astro Bot did have games in previous iterations, we have the Astro Bots like VRs and other small games that came before, it was just great to see that he really has a huge standard, a full-blown 3D game, and it could just be the beginning of something very beautiful for this character, which I really see happening. And I really hope. It's just that I keep saying hope because, of course, you guys know how the gaming industry is shaping up right now with this whole like AI and like live service. But I mean, we had a lot of examples already that we don't have to follow the trends to be successful. And Astro Bot did last year. This year was Expedition 33, and now Hollow Knight Silksong that recently just came out. And it is just an example that if you do things right and the way you do it without nobody telling you what to do or how to control your content, you can actually be one of the most memorable experiences ever. And I think Astro Bot is just an example of like one of the most memorable experiences of the decade, because this is a game that broke the paradigms and broke the stigma and broke the template that people try to impose on you. And here we are talking about Game of the Year, and this is only showing even better because it keeps getting better. And this game keeps getting actually DLC for free, my people. I mean, what beautiful thing is that we're still getting content from Astro, but they keep releasing levels, they keep going the challenging levels. So this is like a fun non-stop. I beat the game, I collect most of the robots. I didn't fully 100% because when I want to sit down and do it, then here comes Team Asobi and releases a patch that goes new levels, new bots to collect. So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just working backwards now. But I definitely want to 100% it, and I definitely want to go back to it. It's a game that I will, like I said, every so often after I play a game and I beat it, I'll come back to it and get a little bit of kick. just to have a little bit of fun, at least until the new Mario comes out. We'll see how that happens. But it's just, like I said, it's just much needed. And now when I look back at the PlayStation 5, which hasn't been a very great generation per se, just for the whole exclusivity games, like very little exclusive PlayStation games, very little first-party PlayStation games, and there's already talks about the PlayStation 6. I mean, who would have thought? But Astro Bot will remain as the main core memory of this generation, and I hope, like I said, it stays like that for a very, very long time, if not forever. And to keep going on the topic of like how this is like the bigger picture and what PlayStation needs to refocus their thoughts on. I mean, we talk about how realistic cinematic games like The Last of Us or Horizon or Spider-Man, which while they were a huge success, don't get me wrong, and there might be reasons like to buy a console, but I feel like it was just adhering to a older demographic, and I feel Astro Bot is the sweet spot to get the kids demographic to put them on the map. And while yes, I mean, kids nowadays will try to get away to playing the more mature stuff, it's just for us adults and those who are parents, and how to choose the consoles, right? Like, how people just buy a Switch or a Switch 2 to just because, oh, it has Mario Kart, oh, it's a Super Mario, oh, this is a great Christmas present. Whilst when you buy a PlayStation to a kid, it's because the kid is asking you, oh yeah, I want to play a PlayStation because I want to play Fortnite, I want to play Roblox, I want to play, all these games that you can play somewhere else. And I don't know, I just find myself really hard to see a family setting a kid that 8, 9, 10-year-old asking for a PlayStation unless they want to play a game that they can play somewhere else. And what PlayStation needs to do with Astro Bot is to make the efforts to make this guy the reason for people to buy a PlayStation. So the more first-party 3D Astro Bot games and third-party, they can make a 2D Astro Bot. That would be amazing. They can make an Astro Bot Mario Kart. I don't know. Just putting things out there. Astro Bot Mario Party. The thing is that they have something there. The more they expand in this universe, the better opportunities they might have to actually succeed and make that contrast with those like realistic cinematic games even much better, which there will still be an option and it will be a beautiful bonus, but the money maker is right here. And just whatever you do, just don't do the live service anymore, please. You already saw what happened with Fur Games and oh my goodness, Concord. Like, if it wasn't that the perfect example of what people don't want, that this is it. And it's just sad because in the end of the day, we are in a world that if the game doesn't perform well or if it doesn't sell more than 5 million copies, then you get shut down. Even worse, I mean, we've seen Xbox and their whole focus that they're doing right now. It's the fact that it doesn't matter if the game was critically acclaimed. If you didn't make enough sales or your studio is small, then forget about it. You are being shut down. And it's very, very, very sad. And it's just... It really hurts the industry and us as gamers, because we're being privated of amazing games and experiences that these small studios can make. And we saw the examples, yet these people on a suit are still doing it, and it really, really, really pisses me off that this is the direction that we're heading. But I appreciate all the developers that are taking a stance and they are making things happen because they wanted them to happen. Somebody's not telling them what to do. The best example you can correct with that, yeah, we talk about Expedition 33 and I mentioned this on the previous episode. Go listen to it. I love that episode so far. But also, I mean, just Team Asobi's director itself. Like, in the middle of the speech of the Game Awards of a PlayStation game winning Game of the Year. The PlayStation game that won Game of the Year versus all the previous nominees that were like hyper realistic and yada 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 that did not win because they lose to a Zelda or they lose to another kind of game. And the guy just stops up and say, "Hey, listen, like I love making Astro Bot and I think this is amazing, but I want you to understand that came from a passion project and like this is thanks to a certain company with a certain character that made me smile, and this was my inspiration. This is what I wanted to make my whole life about. I thank Super Mario," something on that line he said. And the fact that he was brave, I don't know if that got him in any sort of trouble with PlayStation PR, but basically thanking Nintendo, because if it wasn't for Nintendo, this game would not exist in the first place. That will tell you a lot on like what the games industry is. Like if the game is not fun and isn't accessible for everyone, then yes, you might be successful on a certain level, but you're not gonna appeal the broader audience, and you're not gonna go that far in the end of the day, because you are limiting yourself to thoughts and beliefs that you think are the right ones. And just look at the brighter picture and see all these people, all these developers going out and coming together and just having fun making their games. And this is why the indie games industry right now is extremely important too, because while they're not being funded by a big company, they're getting to make the games they like. And you can put the argument, oh yeah, these games are 2D and they all look the same. And I hate to say it, but even with the cozy games, which I always give hell to the cozy games, there's every single cozy game. But an example right there, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley was made by one guy a few years ago now, and it is already up there with Animal Crossing. It's like one of the best like farm sim games like ever made, like hands down. I'm actually surprised. I don't know if it won an award when it came out. Maybe it did. I need to look it up, but I'm not sure. And if we go even further back, 2015, Undertale, Toby Fox. You look at this game, if you never heard of Undertale before, and you see it and you say like, this is like a freaking cute basic game. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't get it. It's so ugly. But then you start playing it and you start looking at the story and then the charm, like how the characters, while being in 2D and made on a 16-bit processor, have so much charm and so much personality, and it just stands out against games like Conquer. Again, these characters from Conquer, they all look like a bootleg versions of other characters, either from a video game or from a movie, and it was just it was just a fiasco, the whole Conquer thing. I just keep saying it, and that's might be like the biggest like disastrous like showcase of a game release and like shut down in gaming history, and I'm not even close. But back to the point, we need to make sure that Astro Bot and all the 3D platformers that will come in the future are games that make you smile, are games that leave lasting memories, and we need to embrace games as games, not as interactive movies. I think that was happening with the realistic games. I would say maybe with the exception of Spider-Man, because that is like the best Spider-Man movie, interactive movie I ever seen in my life, especially Spider-Man 2. Oh my God, what a game that was. I feel like they're all falling off on the sin of making the game look like a movie, and it's like a movie experience instead of a video game. Like in the end of the day, like a compelling story is great, and I understand that, but some of these games have forget that they're games in the first place. And the more you can make this movie feel like a game or like interactable, it's gonna on the long run, it's gonna be an everlasting memory. Because yes, you can see a movie and you can remember a movie, you can like the movie a lot. But I feel like when you add the gameplay aspect, it's gonna be even more nostalgic and more memorable, because it's like we were involved in the actions of that quote-unquote movie. And PlayStation is more than capable of balancing these two worlds together. And yes, I mean, Astro Bot didn't get a big story at all. It's the very basic story. But like with other games that they have, with are very story driven, they can make this happen very easily. And I feel like if you give the opportunity to the right people to, if they want to reinvent a game or a franchise, or like maybe giving like a little, I don't want to say a reboot, but maybe like another take, I feel like what Team Asobi did with Astro Bot, just on the joyful platforming side, I'm actually willing to give it a shot if you want to take on a more serious project and see how that turns out. Because I feel like if they really, like I said, fund them and they really give them the opportunity to shine, Astro Bot can be, I don't want to say the Mario killer, but it's going to be up to par with it. And I hope I get to live long enough to see that happening. It will be very, very fun to really, finally, Mario will have some sort of competition. You can make the assumption that Sonic's trying really, really, really hard right now to make Sonic happen. And I feel like they are. I feel like Sonic is becoming, it's more of a icon. Well, no, Mario isn't, it's iconic per se, but I think Sonic is more like appeal to all the masses, because Sonic right now is everywhere and they're doing a lot of marketing to make sure everybody knows who Sonic the Hedgehog is, and I think they succeeded at that. But when it comes down to video game mascots and stuff, like Mario is always going to be Mario. But if we can have Astro Bot become PlayStation face, then Astro Bot is going to be Astro Bot. And 10, 15, 20 years from now, we'll see how this really was the golden era of PlayStation of finding its identity. And I really hope our little robot will be the face of this generation and the next, for the sake of success for Sony, for PlayStation, and for us gamers in general. And with that, we have reached to the end of episodes 9 of Game and Chat. Just like that, we talk about how Astro Bot was a big deal for PlayStation when it came out, and it could be an even bigger deal if they really develop this franchise in the future. And like I said, my really hopes and dreams, I really hope they make a sequel of this game. Like Astro Bot 2 would be great. I don't know if it's going to happen on PlayStation 5 generation, but if it does, that would be amazing, and I'll be so there. I would hope for it to be a little bit more, maybe PlayStation. Like we got the PlayStation Celebration, yada, but I want it to be a little bit more like fleshed. Like what else Astro Bot can be involved with other than PlayStation parts and consoles and legacy. Like just putting on a setting that, sort of like Ratchet and Clank, like give it a little bit of extra story. Nothing too like fleshed out, but a little bit more variety on levels. Maybe like an open world Astro Bot will be amazing. We'll see if that even happens. But like I said before, this game has been joy from beginning to end. And if I were to recall levels, my favorite levels, I gotta say my favorite levels so far have been like the challenge levels, the ones that you unlock in each galaxy, let's put it that way, that represent the buttons of the PlayStation, and they're the challenging levels that you need to like be like very like platformy tight. I feel like, honestly, I think that that's one some of the best like platforming levels I ever played in my life. Like they really are up there with previous like Mario iterations. And mind you, I still haven't played the final level. I feel like I need to like do like something else, and I haven't unlocked it yet. But once I'm due, I'm so ready for the ride, and I know it's gonna be something amazing. And when I beat these levels, like it's a sense of like accomplishment and proud that I didn't feel since probably Mario Galaxy 2, which, mind you, Mario Odyssey's final level, Dark Side of the Moon, was memorable and it was challenging too. But there's something about the Mario Galaxy 2 one that really, really stand out for me. And I really, really appreciate that Astro Bot took this approach, especially because then after that, then you get the speedrun levels that they have been releasing over and over for people to really keep engaging this game. And, I can see this game, if it wasn't already, be on Games Done Quick. I feel like it would be a very fun game to speedrun and platform. I would love to see how a crazy dude can speedrun through this whole game and those hard levels amazingly. It's really, really, really fun. It would be really, really, really fun to watch if it's not there already. I'm sure there's a crazy speedrun, just haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I mean, those are my biggest hopes and for the game, and favorite levels too. Also, I mean, if you were to recall, I like the one that you shrink into a mouse. I like the gorilla fight was actually really, really cool. And can we just talk about, as cute as Astro Bot is, he's a kind of a brutal murderer. Have you seen these boss battles, or if you play these boss battles, some of them you pull eyeballs and you open eyelids and rip heads off. It is it's brutal. I feel like one of the ones I remember the most is the 3 egg bird thingies that you climb up in the end, and then you have to beat the boss. You need to jump atop, break the egg, and then suck the yolk out of the eggshell, and while they explode on their face, oh my god. A little robot is a cold murder a little bit. So, but yeah, I mean, so many things that you can think about this game. The big 3 with the big song, that funky soundtrack that the first time I heard it was one of the most chillest best soundtracks I ever heard. It's on my playlist. I hope you guys know which one I'm talking about. I think it was showcased also it's called Crystal Caverns on the VR game. Anyway, very, very chill, very funky. I'm sure you guys will know what I'm talking about. And these are the kind of core memories that we need from PlayStation, and I really hope they really expand on this and take advantage of the good momentum that this game brought them. But anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours, people? Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I really appreciate every single one of you. I really appreciate everybody who's listened to the podcast since season 1, and we are on the home stretch of season 2. More episodes coming up, ending up with our Game of the Year 2025 episode right after the Game Awards. So hope you guys looking forward for that. But we have a couple of things more to talk about in the next couple months, so please stay tuned. You guys know where to find me in all social media platforms as 12switcheroo. And very soon, making the streaming comeback on twitch.tv at 12switcheroo, so start following there. We are getting ready to kick things back up with more Mario Maker, more Smash, all upgraded and nice on the Switch too. So once again, guys, it was a very pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you. And please, please, please stay tuned for future episodes. This is Daniel, aka 12switcheroo, signing off. Game on.